Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Marchand. I'm with Modern Testing Services. I'd like to thank you for joining us for the EU Furniture Introduction for Seating and Tables for RH Goods. Just wanted to let you know if during the presentation you have any questions, please click the Q&A button and submit your questions that way. Once the presentation is over, we have a team standing by that will be able to answer any questions. Also, on the last slide, you'll see some email addresses. If you also wanted to submit email questions that way, or if you want to review with your team and submit any questions at a later date, please use those addresses as well. Thank you. We're going to be going through seating, indoor and outdoor, including but not limited to chairs, sofas, stools, ottomans, and benches, and then tables, indoor and outdoor. Scope of the tests will cover the general safety, mechanical safety, hazardous substances, and flammability. Seating for the indoor, the standards that we'll be covering will be BS EN 12520, furniture for the strength and durability and safety. Then BS EN 1022, furniture, seating, determination of stability. BS EN 16139, again, strength and durability safety for non-domestic seating. Outdoor will be at BS EN 581, outdoor furniture, seating and tables for camping. EN 581, outdoor furniture, seating and tables, camping, domestic and contract use, part 2, mechanical safety requirements. And then furniture for seating, determination of stability for BS EN 1022. And BS EN 16139, furniture, strength, durability, and safety, requirements for non-domestic seating. Tables indoor, we'll be covering BSEN 12521, furniture, strength and durability again, requirements for domestic. And then tables on the outdoor will be BSEN 581, outdoor furniture, general safety, and then BSEN 581, outdoor furniture, seating, tables, and camping, mechanical safety, requirements for tables, part 3. Seating, general safety, stability, strength, and durability. General requirements, all parts of the seating that you'd be able to come into contact should be designed to ensure there's no way that anyone have a physical injury, and that damage will be avoided. Especially the edges of the seat, the backrest, and the armrest, where you would come into contact, should be rounded or chamfered, and all other accessible areas and edges should be free from burrs and sharp edges. Any hollow components should be closed or capped in some way to ensure no one could get a finger caught and broke within. Movable and adjustable parts should be designed as well so that injuries and inadvertent operation are avoided. And it should not be possible for any load-bearing part of the seating to come loose unintentionally. Any parts that will require lubrication to assist in sliding and any mechanisms need to be designed to protect the users from lubricant stains when in normal use, or from the rugs or anywhere on the decks where they may be used. Shear and squeeze points will exist in many of these items. And if the distance between the two accessible parts can be more than 7 millimeters or less than 18 millimeters during any movement, will be an issue. You can see here we have an image of the test probes. And then you can see on the right-hand side, they put the test probe inside of the area where there is potentially a pinch point to determine. And unless under the influence of a powered mechanism or during use, these shear points, shear and squeeze points that are created should be checked, and only if they're present during setup and folding will they be allowed. Seating, general safety, shear and squeeze points. This would be for items under power mechanisms. And you can see here, there's some tension construction, the shear points right between the edges where the circles are. And these could be manually being moved, or also if it's under power mechanisms. Shear or squeeze points created when a load is applied during normal use. They are not acceptable if the hazard is created by the weight of the user during the normal action. You can see some examples here. One would be under the arm, and then one in the back of the chair. So you can see the space all the way to the right side where there is a space, and when a person sits down, that's going to close up. If they had a finger there, if anybody was nearby and child put a finger there, that would be a concern. General safety, shear and squeeze points. This schematic here, you can go through, it shows something that you can go through to determine. You can see on the right-hand side, we have some examples. There's a squeeze potential issue here on the side where the cup holder could be, and then again, the same chair with where the weight would be applied. So you'd go through and see if there are any squeeze points present. If none, okay. If they are they accessible or inaccessible? Again, then following through, if they are accessible, you have to look into their existence because of the powered mechanism. If there's no powered mechanism, there'll be additional areas to go through. And are they accessible in a position of use or unuse, or just when setting up or folding? Stability testing, forward overturning and corner stability. You can see the weights would be placed in the front, and then you would pull a force forward to see if the chair would tip in any way, or push from the side. And the machine here, you can see there's a gauge, and they would be pulling from the back to see if there'd be any issues with it tipping. Again, with stability, we have sideways turning and rearwards overturning as well. And the diagrams here will show you where we'd be placing the force on the edge of the chair, or perhaps on the arm of the chair if that's there. And then on the other chair, you can see the opening, they're placing the weight within, and also pulling from the back of the chair. So again, the mechanism in the image shows you where they'd be pulling the force, and they'd be applying the proper forces depending on the size of the chair to determine if it's going to tip too easily, either sideways, forwards, or backwards. Seating stability, additional test protocols with reclining backrest, including but not limited to indoor and outdoor chairs, chaises, benches, and sofas. You can see the weight is in the chair, and they'll be holding it here. And what they would do is let the weight go and make sure that the chair does not completely flip over. The video will show this. So the chair will pass because it did not flip over. Seating and stability, the basic test parameters, EN1022. I'll go through a few of these. Basically, you can see it's covering the forward overturn, forward overturning with seating if there is a footrest, which would be a little different. You can see if it's a swivel chair or a different type of chair, you have different weights that they'll be applying, and corner stability, sideways overturning, rearwards, tilting of the seating. So all aspects of the chair will be checked and use the applicable standards for that. Additional testing for strength and durability, this seat and back static load. So you're applying a force to it. You want to make sure that the chair is not going to break apart. So you want to verify continued use will not be an issue for it. And you can see here in the image, we have the weights that would be pressed to the back as well as the bottom, and they will be cycled through. Depending on the size of the chair, we'll verify how many cycles we'll have to go through. If you can see here, we're pressing backwards and downwards, and this would just continue to cycle through for the appropriate number as needed. This image here continues on with the strength and durability, and what they're doing here is applying the front edge static load, also to verify you're not going to see any breakage, tippage, and they want to make sure the durability there is going to work as well. And then also, if you have a footrest, in the image you can see below, and also on the right-hand bottom picture, they're applying a weight to that just to make sure that the durability there is fine and that the certain amount of weights won't tip that over. And you can see here in the video, the weight is being applied to that front edge to make sure that there's no damage to it. Seating, strength and durability, armrest sideways static load, armrest downward static load, and armrest durability. On the top image, you can see we are pulling the arms to the sides, and we'll make sure we might run through cycles and also may put the weight on it. And as through cycling it, we're making sure that it's not going to loosen up and break in any way. And then in the bottom picture, there will be a video here. You'll be able to see the weight is being applied downward on the arms, where we're making sure that, again, you'll be able to cycle through normal use and you won't have any breakage, and that the durability will be there. You can see the cylinders are applying the weight down. Seating, strength and durability continued. The leg forward static load, the leg sideways static load, and seat impact. The weight, you can see the chair here is pushed down. You can see there's blocks in front, so they're trying to keep it from tipping forward, and they'll be applying weight. They put weight into the chair, as well as they're applying with the cylinder. They're pressing from the back or from the side, whichever test it's going to be for, making sure that it's not tipping, that it's not breaking, just to go through a durability again through multiple number of cycles to make sure after repeated use, it's still going to, the chair will still last. Then the seat impact, we are dropping a weight into the center of it to make sure that as people are sitting down, you're not going to see any breakage. And we will cycle this through as well, just to make sure that after repeated use, it's not going to eventually fail. The back impact and backward fall. So these tests, again, they're making sure that the chairs are stable, and they'll be hitting it with a weight as well from the back, just to make sure that there's not going to be any breakage if anything was to happen from behind. And you can see that runs through. And here they're holding it and determining the angle at which the tip over would be. Here's some of the basic parameters. It's covering from the static load for the seat, the back static load, seat front, footrest static load, and you can see we have the test item, the parameter, and then what's being used for the cycles and the weights that are being applied. And we cover from all the different aspects, the armrest durability, leg forward static load. So all of these tests will be applied to the chair as applicable for that style of chair that we're looking at. Strength and durability continued. And now this one is for the outdoor seating. Again, looking at the specific loads, what type of chair it is, what type of testing needs to be done. For the static load, the back static load, seat front edge, a combined seat and back durability. So again, running through the cycles, you can see some of these range from 10 cycles or certain cycle at certain minutes, as well as some are running up to 25 to 50,000 cycles or more. Swivel testing, the load that the seat at point A, you're basically putting weights on the seat as well as applying a load from the side. And what they're trying to do here is to make sure the base rotation is not hindered in any way, as well as running through to ensure it's not going to fail over time. So as you can see here, this one has a cycle of 120,000. So it's going to be repeatedly done. It may take several days, but this way you make sure that the chair is going to stand up to be repeated use over a few years. I'd like to just point out too, if there are any questions as I'm going through, please hit the Q&A button and you can submit the questions and our team will respond at the end of the presentation. And if you have any additional questions, we'll also have some emails on the last slide where you can send questions out to the team and we'll reply via email as well. Table testing, general safety, stability, strength, and durability. Some of the general safety, again, overall, you want to make sure that all the edges are free of burrs or any sharp edges, that anything that can come in contact with the user. And then again, all hollow components should be closed or capped to ensure no finger entrapment hazards are there. All the movable and adjustable parts do need to be designed so that there are no injuries and no inadvertent operation while they're in use. And it also should be not be possible for any load-bearing part to loosen up while under use. Anything that needs to be lubricated to assist sliding and such should be done in a way so that it does protect the user and their surroundings from any stains during normal use. Continued general safety, squeeze and shear points. Any of the squeeze, shear and square points, if there's a distance between 7 millimeter or less than 18 millimeter, will be considered a shear and squeeze point. It should not be under the influence of powered mechanisms or during use. These should not be created and become an issue. There should be no shear and squeeze points created by parts of the table operated by the power mechanisms. And there should be no shear or squeeze points created during normal use. Stability testing. Here we have the vertical load as well as a load being applied when our extension elements, as with drawers here. So you can see the forces in the image, the weights are on the side of the table. And what you're trying to do here is make sure that, let's say if there were plates or anything of weight put there, you want to make sure that that table is going to be stable and not tip over if anything is put in different areas. Anything with the drawers, with the extension elements, we're also placing a weight in the center to make sure that the drawers will open and operate properly. Continued testing is with the static load and the horizontal durability. So we will put a static load in the center, make sure that there's not going to be any issues with any breakage there. And then the legs are blocked off so that they can't move. And then the forces are going to be applied with the pistons where they're pushing from the sides or any of the four sides to ensure that there are no issues there. Strength and durability continued, the vertical static load and vertical durability. You can see in the image, the deflection of the table is being shown. So here we're going to be using the cylinders to place weight. The first image, you're seeing it placed in the center to make sure that there's no problems with any breakage there. And then you also have the bottom picture, you've got two cylinders being used. So they're placing additional weight in two areas. And essentially you're trying to make sure, one, there's not going to be any breakage of the legs. And then two, repeated use is not going to be a problem and you won't see any issues with it. Vertical impact and the drop test. You can see in the image here, they're holding the table up at a certain angle, and then they're going to drop that down to make sure that it does not fail. And then the additional test with the drop test, they're also making sure, especially say glass or thin wood, they're making sure if something is dropped into it, that it's not going to cause cracking or breakage of the table. So after dropping it down, they'll make sure that there's no damage to it and make sure that it will still be usable. These are some of the test parameters for the strength and durability that we've gone through. Horizontal static load, the vertical static load, and you can see we have the test parameters, the test forces, cycles. So everything's broken out for the specific test. These charts would be used when we get the item in. We're going to verify which would apply, and then when we go through it as applicable to make sure that we're covering through. Again, you can see some go through 10 cycles, up to 10,000 cycles or more. And this is continued. Now this one is for the outdoor table. Again, the same type of information. Some of the test masses and cycles may be a little different, but we would check this. So depending on what the item is, we will apply the appropriate cycle and weights to it. Again, you see some, this one I believe goes up to about 20,000 cycles potentially for the horizontal durability. Hazardous substance overview. We have gone through this in our other presentation, and that detail will be available to everyone. If you had not seen the initial presentations, just let us know and we will send that over. So generally, we're going to be looking at the restricted substance list for the POPs regulations and then REACH regulations. Also, the substances of very high concern, and then Directive 9462 EC for the packaging directive. And as I noted, just let us know if you were not able to attend the first presentation, and we can get the full breakout of this to your team, or feel free also to reach out to our local laboratories for more detail. Flammability overview. I will be reviewing flammability in much more detail after the initial presentation today. So right here, we're just mentioning what the standard would be, and that's the UK Furniture and Furnishings Fire Safety Regulation. Just a couple of examples of recalls we wanted to bring out. We have one chair, the first chair here was an issue with it tipping backwards very easily. The design wasn't proper, didn't have the sufficient stability. There were a few people that did fall, and the chair was breaking, the back was breaking out. The second one is another issue. The stability was not there forward on this one. You can probably see the curve of the legs. So if you sat too forward on this chair, the chair was just tipping right over on you. and there was recalls for that. And then the last chair, very simply, the legs were just not strong enough, and they were seeing breakage when people were using them. Additional recalls, these would be on some tables. The glass on this table was breaking, and luckily there were no injuries, but potentially if you had a table full of items, there could be some challenges there. And then the second table, there were some issues with stability. If anything was put at one of the edges, you were having everything tip over, causing problems. And then additionally, there were some shot edges on the table as well. So the recall was put out for this one. Then some additional items. These are more with sofas with recalls. They have different items. Some were loose fibers, and they were all a risk of fire with loose fibers. The PVC fabric was an issue, and the layered fibers all were failing the ignition tests. And then they did not have the proper fire safety labeling as well, so that was part of the recall also. I'm going to run through the EU Fire Safe, basically, for the indoor and outdoor, do some additional discussions. Again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to hit the Q&A button. You can submit your questions that way. And then once the presentation is over, we do have a team standing by who will be able to reply to everything. If you also want to submit any additional questions, you can also use the emails at the end of the presentation, and then our team will get back to you. Just a quick background. Generally, you know, there are still many fires that are happening due to cigarettes. Excuse me, and there's multiple thousands every year, and most, you know, a lot of them do involve the upholstered furniture. So they did come out with some standards that they can go through that's going to evaluate the ignitability of furniture by either a cigarette or a match. And different areas may have some higher ignition sources, but all the national standards will go through, and these items will be tested appropriately for the location you're going into. Just some general information. The next few slides go through different countries and the different information. And you can see basically the type of furniture that they're looking at really is the seat and the mattress, as well as some are also looking at the fillings. And then they're going through whether it's an ignition by cigarette or by, there's also a source where they use a small crib, wooden crib, and set that on fire to see if there's going to be an issue. And that these charts will tell us, depending on where you're going, what test needs to be done. And we usually work for the most stringent to ensure that the product will be safe. Additional requirements for different countries for the upholstered furniture. Again, the ignition, whether it be by cigarette. You have one here that also is done with an equivalent gas burner or a paper cushion, or none by match as well. So the different country may have different requirements, and the lab will apply most appropriate. Just some additional countries going through, and you'll be able to review these. If you do have any questions, let us know or follow up later with emails, or you can reach out to your local labs. These are some of the typical test methods that they'd be following through. BS 5852 for upholstered furniture, EN 1021 for upholstered, and EN 597 for mattresses and upholstered bed bases. More details on the furnishings and the scope is essentially furniture intended for private use and dwelling, including children's furniture, bed, headboards, mattresses, sofa beds, futons, nursery furniture, some garden furniture if it can be used within a dwelling, and then new caravans or recreational vehicles, campers. If any of your furniture is being used in those types of items, these standards will also apply, as well as pillows and stretch covers for furniture. It's just some general notes on your sample size and the ignition sources, and we would use these to go through. It's covering whether they're for polyurethane foam, whether it's in a slab or a cushion form, or whether it's in a crumb form. We would be applying different test methods to it, and the ignition sources, whether they're 1, 2, or 3, different ones would be applied. And then you can see generally it looks like 2 pieces would be able to be used for the testing, but the local lab can make sure. Just check with your local lab and we'll be able to verify how much is needed for each one. Also, if it's a cloth or dust cover, so to speak, usually 3 or 5 yards is going to be enough. And the lab will work with you to make sure that you know that up front. Now here's an image of the cigarette test. It's considered ignition source 0. And you can see that the cigarettes are placed in the nook of the chair, and then they're left to smolder. And after 60 minutes, there should be no flames and no smoldering continuing. Now this one is BS 5852 Part 1, and it's for the UK. Furniture and furnishings. Now this one uses a match as opposed to the cigarette. And you can see match or a butane flame is being used. And this is ignition source 1. So you can see the flame is being applied. Then you pull a flame away and you let them burn. They should self-extinguish. And you can see here the differences in how they go through the different, they wait 2 minutes to see how far they'll go. Now here's the match ignition source 2. This is for no foam filling. And here they're applying, then they're using the butane flame as opposed to an actual burning match, and it's applied for 40 seconds. And they want to make sure that there's no progressive smoldering or flaming failure. So they'll watch this closely as well. This is the crib test. There's a small wooden crib, if you can see on the first picture to your left. And then in the middle of the crib is lit, and they observe it for up to 60 minutes. And there should be no progressive smoldering or flame. And you can see what happens in a failed item. The foam ignites, splits, and you can see on the far right, it's gone right through, and you can see the mesh behind. Some of the labelings, and the lab can help you with these as well. They want to make sure that you do have the display panel at the point of sale. Must be at least 50 millimeter by 50 millimeters so that they can see the graphic portion for either. And then has to show which test method it's meeting or filling requirements, if it is both cigarette and or match resistance. And then they do have some warning labels that you can put about whether or not the filling material cover meet the requirements, and making sure that call out warnings with the carelessness causes fire. Additional labels, and it'll cover a wide range of fabrics. Again, this one is giving you a warning that the cover is not match resistant, and then it's telling you on the right hand side which test method it's meeting, and then again some caution statements. The label, and except for mattresses and bed bases, must be a permanent label. Now there's 2 different ones that can be used, the full information or the short label. And you can see here, first and foremost, you got to make sure that the caution is there. They want to make sure you've got the name, postal code and such, batch numbers. So all the key information that will allow you to follow up if there are any issues. And it also gives you a description of the filling materials, basically everything that you'll need if there are any challenges or any problems with it, so that you can get back to the manufacturer. Now for seating, we'd be using BSEN 1021-1 and -2. And right now they're working on potentially, this would cover Czechoslovakia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Germany. And they expect a UK regulation as well to be coming in. And this would be all indoor furniture with filling. Sample size is going to be roughly, we need 3 yards, 1.5 if it's not non-woven. So different aspects. The foam, maybe here we're saying 3 kilograms. So basically, if the team reached out to the lab, we'll be able to help you out. This gives you a general idea. And if it is foam, what size we'd need for that as well. And here, the cigarette test is being performed. You can see the ignition source, the image pointing to it. You've got the foam. This also has the upholstery fabric on it, and it's being left to smolder for 60 minutes. And after that, there should be no smoldering or flaming for it to be passing. Now EN 1021-2, this is the match test. Here again, we're using the butane flame. Most labs would be doing that. And it's applied for 15 seconds right at the nook or the angle between everything. And then after the flame is removed, there should be no burning of the fabric after 2 minutes. BSEN 597, this is some mattresses and upholstered bed bases, and it's going to be reviewing the ignitability of the mattress and the base. Using smoldering cigarettes for the testing here, and you can see they'll put it in the rig, and then you can see the burn marks here. They put them on the surfaces, the taped edges, quilted locations and tufts, etc. And they let them smolder, but they should not go beyond 1 hour from the beginning of the test. Continuing on with the mattress and upholstered bed base. Now they're using a flame for this item. This is the match flame equivalent. And again, they'd be applying the flame for 15 seconds. And depending on the finish, they're going to find different areas of that mattress to do this. As I mentioned, the taped edges or quilted locations or tufts. And they should be no flame after 120 seconds, 2 minutes after removal from the burner tube. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Now, if you have any questions, please click the Q&A button and you can submit them, and our team who is standing by will respond now. Also, if you have any follow-up questions after possibly reviewing with your teams, please submit them to myself or to Sean Zhang, and we will follow up directly with you that way as well. Again, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and please let us know if you do have any questions. Thank you.